story as to exactly what kind of a thing you're trying to build. The thing that I think that I'm excited about, and this matters because I'll definitely be, I'm sure there'll be people here who may listen to me today and say, well, I don't want to work on this project, and that's like totally okay, right? Because we are still publishing the open source code of Second Life, and so the ability to make one's own viewers that have specific feature sets and stuff continues obviously unchanged by this announcement. But I wanted to tell everybody kind of what I think the point is here. In other words, what do I think we want to do with this particular build that I want to jump in and manage so closely? And that is, I want to make a generally, and I'm going to use a word here that I think somebody suggested to me from the open source community, which I thought was great. I want to make a generally interesting viewer, meaning that I don't want to make a viewer for developers. I don't want to, myself included. I want to make a viewer that is intended for a wide audience. It's intended for everybody using Second Life, but I want to try and use the strategies and the work process and the workflow we build as the open source community here to see if we can do some of the things faster that we're, say, not doing in some of like Linden Lab's internal projects. So the vision of making a viewer that has a lower crash rate, or starts up faster, or is a little bit more obvious how to use a feature or something like that. That strikes me as the kind of stuff that we want to be doing. As kind of eliminating, making changes that are generally appealing. Now that doesn't mean that we can't as a community decide to do stuff like, so for example, somebody asked, what about, I'll just take some questions. Yeah, what about ray tracing and live shadows? I have no problem with using this as a vehicle for turning that kind of stuff on, so long as we don't create a build that has bugs or risk as a result of those additions. Now in a lot of cases, like Dave P's amazing shadow work, we ought to be able to selectively turn that on, and indeed the latest round of really cool graphics enhancements, I believe, are in the what are they in? They're in 1.22 or 1.23 or something. There, you can turn them on and debug anyways, and we can, I suppose we can certainly fold those things in. I also just want to generally fold things in that we think are directionally sensible. If it gives us an opportunity to work a little earlier on a direction that we're going to need to go in the future, like say using cameras to pick up people's gestures, a favorite project of mine, and of course of Murov's, who was the guy who actually started working on this stuff first. That's a capability that's generally appealing, and this might be a great venue for getting that feature working and seeing if people are excited about it in a general sense, and doing that faster than we are able to in mainline development, inside Linden Lab. The other thing, of course, is that Linden Lab, as everybody reorganizes to sort of take on, some of these really big problems we have, there's a natural shift toward, for the first time, trying to get really large, aggressively sort of single-purpose groups that are going after very complicated changes, like, for example, updates to the interface. You saw Howard, I think, mentioning this in a public blog post recently. There are some really big projects that have some large teams working on them in the lab right now. And I thought that it would be a great time to try and make sure that we're continuing to rapidly do very obvious, compelling things that don't necessarily fit into that some of the bigger projects that are happening internally. So, those are some thoughts. Let's just kind of talk or take questions at this point. I saw a few already, but you guys want to retype questions if you got them, and you can also talk. Happy to do that. Yeah, Morgana Denova, you said, would there be an opportunity for multiple branches? Do you mean do you mean with the goal of folding those branches back into our branch here, or do you mean would it be possible for us to run, say, provide a public cluster of build machines that are building totally different projects that, like, I'm not worrying about or something? I don't know which kind of question you mean by that. You're typing. Cool. Yeah, so I'm going to assume you said explore different ways of making UIs. I think by that you mean that, well, you said no to both things. I think you're saying that would we consider replicating this to do different things? I mean, I think the answer to that, I guess, is, let's see, what's the right answer? I think the right answer there is if this works. If we're able to create a generally appealing open source, I'd like to see us, deploy an open source viewer. Like I said, that success to me would be a viewer that works better than the existing one in some measurable, obvious ways, and is adopted by, like I said, a nice kind of single-digit percentage of overall users when we put it up, so that people are really making use of it in large numbers.